Howdy, everybody. Bob Tallman for No Spin Rodeo. No politics, no BS, just hard-hitting news and rodeo commentary from two of the most trusted sources in our sport. Kendra Santos, Tommy Joe Lucia. Listen up. Here we go.
Hello, everybody. Tommy Joe Lucia. Welcome to episode 99. We are one away from 100. Have no idea what 100 will be, but we're pretty darn excited about episode 99. Good evening, Miss Santos, the First Lady of Pro Rodeo Journalism with her royal red coat on. And we have joining us Mr. Tom Hirsig from the daddy of them all, the big one, the largest, from all aspects, in a lot of ways, the largest rodeo that we know, short of probably the NFR. Welcome, Tom. Welcome, Kendra. How are you guys doing this evening?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Fabulous.
Well, so we brought, here's what we try to do. We try to bring when there's current stuff out there in our rodeo world, we try to talk about it. We bring different perspectives and different narratives. And Cheyenne has been in the news. And a little brief commentary on Cheyenne. First of all, it's known as Daddy of them all. It started in 1897, right, Tom? 1897. Right. That's a long time. This rodeo went through the Great Depression, both World Wars, and everything in between except COVID. None of us got through COVID, but COVID was harder, evidently, than the Great Depression. New this year, 10 consecutive days of performances. We'll get into that later. The event will happen July 17th through the 26th in 2026. And here's the big news, which is probably the premise of a lot of our conversation. They've changed the format of the Cheyenne Frontier Days. So for those of you listeners and viewers that aren't as in tune with rodeo, there's no more slack rounds. Instead, the athletes will qualify through, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, selected rodeos, world standings, and some circuit placement. Right?
Exactly. Yes, sir.
And the top performers from the first 6 rounds then go through a semifinal bracket to a progressive finals bracket to crown your champions. Is that fair?
Exactly. Tommy, if you don't mind, I'd like to start with my background so that people understand my perspective of Cheyenne Frontier Days. I'm just not somebody that just came to Cheyenne Frontier Days in the last few years. My great-great-uncle was one of the co-founders of Cheyenne Frontier Days. My family's been involved in Cheyenne Frontier Days since day one. I started volunteering in the arena when I was 10 years old, at a lot of those slacks that we're talking about. July isn't a great time to leave the ranch, but that's one thing our family always did. We took a lot of pride in Cheyenne Frontier Days. So when we talk about these decisions, the perspective I speak from is not just somebody new to Cheyenne Frontier Days or new to rodeo. I've been here the whole time. I mean, I haven't missed a Cheyenne Frontier Days my whole life. So it's near and dear to my heart every time we make a change. It's not something that we just take and just decide overnight over a beer or something. Hey, let's just try this. We've been talking about these changes for a couple of years. And it stems around a lot. And the other part of my background is I did compete at the PRCA rodeos and, made the national final steer open one year. I won Pendleton and I won Cheyenne. So,
wow. I didn't know that. You're a cowboy, baby. Is that where you chipped your tooth? Did you chip a tooth in there?
Probably in the letter buck room. But so we've been thinking about this for a while because, as everyone knows, one of the biggest problems with rodeo today is the size of the rodeo rigs. And it's just because the contestants' lifestyle has changed. They're on the road. They can't afford to do hotel rooms. That's just crazy anymore. So they got to have these living quarters trailers, and they take up way more room than what back in the day when we'd have a lot of contestants. We used to fit them all into a little lot because it was like 2-horse trailers or, a bunch of guys in a 4-horse. But the biggest thing that we've been battling is space. That's a huge problem for us, and it's a huge problem for almost every rodeo you talk to of trying to get the contestants in there. So that's kind of the first thing that we've been battling. And then, the second thing that came along is cattle. Thankful for the ranchers, the cattle prices are where they are today. They're finally probably getting paid what they need to get paid on their cattle and can make a living, but that doesn't really coincide too much with rodeo. Calves, when you think about us we've been contracting for about 275 head of calves every year. Most guys don't want to do that. That's a huge cost to put out your money and buy 275 head of calves that are not going to put on weight for a few month, 2 months before by the time they're done with the rodeos. So that's another thing. And then of course shutting down the border, that really eliminated Coriani steers for who knows how long. Certainly they'll come back, but at what price will they come back? So, I think to me that one of the things that contestants don't understand to start with is the economics of paying for cattle and stock. You go to a jackpot, for example, right? You go to a jackpot team roping or whatever you go to. Whoever does that, they take whatever their cost for stock is, they take it right off the top. Stock are paid for. At PRCA rodeos, you can't charge a stock charge. Well, let me rephrase that. There is a stock charge that's eligible to rodeos, and it's $10 per contest, not per run. So to put that into perspective, last year at Cheyenne Frontier Days, to get 275 calves, we spent over $350 for every calf roper for stock. So when you multiply that times 200, that's well in excess of $60,000 just for calves last year. We don't get to take a stock charge. We have to foot that bill. When you pay an entry fee, and I think a lot of contestants, I certainly never understood when I wrote a $100 check at a rodeo for my entry fee, where does that money go? So it goes to the PRCA. The PRCA keeps 6% of it, and then they put the rest of it in the purse. That's where all your entry fee money goes. I think that's when we start this conversation, I think it's important for people to understand we're not going to be the only rodeo that's going to be faced with problems like this when cattle are going to cost as much as they are.
Well, I'll take a step back because you dove right into the meat of this, but I will, to follow up on your credentials, because I had done a little research. You were contestant chairman, arena director, board of directors, secretary treasurer, vice chairman. Tell me if I'm wrong. And then you went in so that's your rodeo. Did I miss something? That's your rodeo background with CFD. But
Right.
then, you're Wyoming State Insurance Commissioner, so you have a business portfolio, which makes you really good for the job. So like you said, reinforcing like you said, you're not one of those guys like we see in this business that strolls in at the top, doesn't know nothing about the bottom, and starts making decisions. So I wanted to reinforce that before we cut Kendra loose, because you dove into your side of it, and we'll continue to have conversations on that. Kendra, what say you?
Well, I would like to event by event compared to this year to last year, because I think not everybody knows the particulars, but I think when we're taking it like a step all the way back, I think there's a lot of mad, sad, outraged people right now, and trust me, I'm one of the people that will miss Slack like crazy at Cheyenne. It's like, so I think that to just speak of it, it better than anyone, Tom. But back in the day, people were at Cheyenne all week. They took their families, everyone with a PRCA card. There were no limits. Everybody with a PRCA card just about entered. There were plenty of people who got their card to enter Cheyenne, right? And it paid really well because there were, couple hundred calf ropers or whatever, bulldoggers. Like, it was such, I think, to preface this conversation, with how people's hearts hurt over the idea that there will be this rodeo reunion that is slack at Cheyenne. You know, it's generations of people. I mean, it's Dean Finnerty entering the bulldogging for the I don't know how many time, and it's really something special. And I don't even know at what point part of the, you know, if we go all the way back, the arena used to be bigger, right? The score used to be
A little
longer.
bit, yeah.
And back to my first going there for work in the 80s and 90s, it was 2 and a short was the format. But the score was longer. Well, a walk-in fresh one for everybody in the first round. Is that right?
Yep.
And so that's just not, you're saying that's just not doable right now with the border closed.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about that, Kendra, just to touch upon like the stock deal, those guys used to have to buy those steers and well, mostly the steers, and they'd have to buy them in January and sit on them till July with no money. You know, if you tried to do that today, there's too many jobs for those steers. But Kendra, let's go back to that because I mean, I think that's a interesting topic is to talk about like the 80s, you know, which is my era of rodeo, and Cheyenne was the spot, right? I mean, we when you entered Cheyenne, if you were the first guy out, you were the last guy out. There was no back to back, there was no trading. So people brought their families because they knew they were going to spend at least 3, 4, 5 days in Cheyenne. And it was a great time. I mean, people came in, the families all hung out, Ricky and the Red Streaks and the hitching post. I mean, those were the glory days. I mean, no doubt about it. And then Cheyenne Frontier Days was asked to go back to back. And that changed the dynamics of rodeo immensely, even, I mean, in this whole region. When you think back to the 80s, there was no other really rodeos to go to during the week of Cheyenne. You know, now you've got Deadwood has got to be a formidable rodeo, Spanish Fork, all these places these guys can go. So now, you know, now that week is like bigger than the 4th of July. So those guys are on the road now. So it's different than it was back in the 80s. I mean, and yeah, I would love for it to be the way it was, but it's not. It's just the contestants are different. They've got a job to do. They're trying to make a living. So it's not the same atmosphere. And we can remember that. I mean, those are some of my fondest memories. And I tell almost everybody that I know, I was so fortunate to rodeo in the 80s when it was more relaxed like that and not such a business like it is today. But
well, I feel like too, there's just the stock alone. So many people entered that rodeo because even people, you know, in their 40s and 50s or whatever, calf ropers included, bulldoggers, felt like, I mean, there's an art to hazing there. There's, you know, with that, when the score was as long as it used to be. And, you know, when you start with fresh cattle, it's like you didn't have to get the best one. You know, all the places weren't paid on 2 steers, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And with the border being closed, I do get your hands are tied in the area of cattle, right?
You know, and I tell everybody this, we weren't going to have a choice this year. I mean, there's just not that amount of cattle around. Last year, we never got our team roping and tripping steers until the end of June. If you would have asked me the end of June, I would have said, there's no way we're going to have tripping. Tayo stood up, and he's not a PRCA contractor, big team roping producer, good friend of mine. He actually came to our rescue and brought us enough steers to pull that off. So it's not like we have a choice to go back to getting 200 head of steers or 200 head of calves, or those numbers are just like impossible to do. It's a change in our world, and yeah, I mean, I cherish those days. And you know, I want to share this story with you a little bit. You know, Sierra Lewis, Brent Lewis's daughter, she wrote an article or a Facebook post and talked about what that meant to her. And I think everybody knows, you know, Sierra's been in a wheelchair her whole life, and Brent and Cammie have taken her to rodeos, and she's really become a big part of the rodeo family. But she expressed kind of the same sentiments that you did. But I'm going to tell you one thing about that young woman. when she expressed those sentiments, she put them in a positive spin. As far as she was hurting, but she wasn't trying to call out anybody else. And so I sent her a message and I said, I admire you for doing that. I said, you made my day because you presented a case without being virtually evil about your comments. And I think that's the thing that saddens me the most about rodeo, and this is just not personal because of what's going on, but man, we have such a tendency to cannibalize our organization. Everybody's on the attack. There's all these conspiracy theories. I get kind of like almost kind of upset about everybody that has these conspiracy theories about the judges. I've worked with all these judges. They're good people. Do they make bad calls? Absolutely. Are they bad people and they're trying to mess with somebody's livelihood? I really don't believe that's true. So I wish our communities of rodeo would be a little more supportive of everything in rodeo. I kind of got a little bit off path with that, but I just it's great to see somebody like Sierra that has that kind of communication piece about
Well,
it.
and okay, that is a great example. And she part of her point was to stand up for her little brother Sam, who is a young calf roper these days. And so I'm guessing that Sam, as of right this minute, isn't eligible to rope there. And so, we can all think of so many examples. I mean, in 1983, there was a 20-year-old skinny kid from South Dakota, then Nebraska, that shows up to Bulldog, and he was on $1,500 borrowed last-ditch effort to get out of the hayfields, $1,500 borrowed against his milk cow jurors. And if Oak doesn't win Cheyenne when he's 20 years old, the world never knows who Oak Berry is.
Absolutely.
And so those are the stories like that we're not gonna see as much of that, right?
Probably not.
I think that it would be very helpful for those who are making assumptions but don't know for sure. Can we just take it real quick, the event by event,
Yep.
or if certain events are the same, how this year's different from last year? The rough stock has not changed, is that right?
The rough stock has not changed, other than the fact that the added money has changed. It's gone from 70,000 to 100,000 in every rough stock event. And we talk about limits. Well, you know what? We turn 100 bull riders away from Cheyenne Frontier Days and have for many years. And there's not an outcry about that. It's just part of the way. I mean, we all accept that there's tons of bull riders and they all can't get in Cheyenne. But yeah, so all the rough stock stays the same. And we also have we've been very proud of our rookie bronc riding, where we try to bring up the young bronc riders in the organization to have them have a place to compete at a level like that. And I think we've done a pretty good job of helping grow the sport of saddle bronc riding. So yeah, those will be the same. Steer roping.
Okay, but the same for bareback for the buck and horse events. The number's different from the bull riding. 60 bull riders and is it 72 in the buck and horse?
72. Yes.
Okay, and so you said you turn away 100 bull riders. Is that because you can't get enough good? Nobody wants to ride in slack. You can't, or what's the reason for?
No, I think we all know that in the sport of bull riding, the stock contractors have bred the bulls way above some of the capabilities of contestants. I mean, the stock is incredible. So making sure that we get enough guys, that ride so they get two chances to make it to our semifinals. So it's trying to make sure that we get a complete list when we get to our semifinals and finals. So that's why we do that.
Okay, that's why it's a different number than the buck and horse riders?
Yeah. Because the buck and horse riders, they get on one horse. And so in the rough stock, it will be a little bit different because we have, like you talked about, the 6 preliminary rounds. Okay, so we start with those rounds, 12 guys each day. 6 of them will advance to one of 3 semifinals we have on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So half the guys will advance. The other half, they're done. But those guys will advance. Then we take 4 out of each one of the semifinals, go to the finals on Sunday. The bull riding, they get on 2 bulls. Top 36 go to the semifinals, and then we take 12 out of there to go to the finals.
Okay, and as for deciding who gets into Cheyenne in the rough stock, it's how many from the world? Is it from the world standings as of a certain cutoff date?
Yeah, I'm not even sure what that cutoff date is. I'm sure it's somewhere around mid part of June would be the cut. But they take, go off of world standings, and then I think they take 8 out of the circuit.
Mountain States
Yeah.
circuit. Okay, and then there are 9 qualifying rodeos that are PRCA and 9 qualifying rodeos that are WPRA.
Yeah, but those don't have anything to do with the rough stock.
Oh. Okay. Okay, so let's go on to the timed events. So first, let's just get the steer roping out of the way. The steer rope is going to stay the same as it was last year.
Steer roping will be the same. I mean, again, cattle dependent. I mean, that's kind of the wild card. How many can we take? How many steers are we going to get? Are there going to be steers? Our hope is it'll be the same as it was last year.
Is that 60 guys or?
No, I think we take right around 100 guys to that.
100, and that will be the only event that actually has slack. Is that right?
Yes. So they run 2, and then they come back. Top 12 come back to the finals in the performance.
Okay, so 100 guys, they will have slack.
Yeah.
And then the short round.
We try to schedule that right after Sheridan's over with, so those guys can have a clean path to come here.
What's the added money look like for them?
60,000 added money.
60,000. Okay. Mm-hmm. So now to go to the calf roping, bulldogging, and team roping. Right. Is it 72 guys?
78 guys.
78.
And so the calf roping, team roping, and bulldogging 78. So that is 13 in every performance. Okay. We take 5 advance to the semifinals, and then the 8 that don't advance, the first 3 days, they'll go to wild card rounds. So we'll have 2 wild card rounds, and we'll have one. So our rodeo starts on Friday. Monday morning, we'll have a wild card round, which will be those first 3 performances of guys that did not qualify into the semifinals, and they'll compete for 3 more chances to get into the semifinals. And then we'll go do that again for the second 3 performances on Thursday morning. So that'll put 6 more into the semifinals.
Okay, and as for who qualifies in those 3 events, it's X number from the world standings. Do you know the number?
So I think it's 61, and you might check my math. Around 61 from the world standings, 8 from the circuit, and 9 from the. I think that adds up. 9 from the qualifying rodeos.
Okay, so if you win one of the qualifying rodeos,
you don't necessarily have to win those. So
drop down.
I mean, if you win it, you're guaranteed to go. But if I won third and maybe one guy is in the top 60 and another guy qualified out of the circuit, then I'm in. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to win first at those rodeos.
Okay. How did you pick those qualifying rodeos, and why is the PRCA got a different list than the WPRA?
Well, so what happened was, I love this whole qualifying system. It hasn't ever been done like this before, and I'll tell you in a minute kind of why I think it's so good. So the PRCA, I basically left it up to the 2 organizations. They know their rodeos better than anybody else. What rodeos are out there that would like to have a few more contestants? And so the WPRA, there were some of the PRCA rodeos that maybe they were scared they were going to get 300 barrel racers. They didn't want to do the girls' events. So that's how we came up with 2 separate lists. It was up to those 2 organizations to reach out to the rodeo committees and ask them if they want to be part of it. Since that time, I've been asked, how do we qualify to be a qualifier for Cheyenne Frontier Days? In fact, I just a few hours ago, I got a phone with Grand Junction. And when you think about this, for a rodeo like Grand Junction, Colorado, think about them being able to market their rodeo in a whole different scheme now. they are a qualifier for Cheyenne Frontier Days. Hopefully that's going to help build more rodeos that have something else to market rather than, well, we're Grand Junction, we've got a good rodeo, come see us. But now they've got brand recognition of Cheyenne Frontier Days to hopefully attract more people to the rodeo. I mean, and that's, Tommy, you know this as well as I do. That's what makes the world go round is ticket sales. I mean, there's no way around it. Ticket sales are what drive sponsorship revenue. They drive your malt beverage sales. They drive your food sales. They drive your parking. If your fan base isn't growing, you're going to have problems. And so, if this kind of relationship can help those rodeos grow their fan base and their ticket buyers, I think it's a win-win for rodeo.
Well, I feel like somebody did ask the question publicly why there were no qualifying rodeos in the Mountain States, and so the answer is because you're taking 8 circuit guys.
No, there are rodeos in the Mountain States. I think Elizabeth is on there. Grand Junction's on there.
Oh, I'm certain I saw a social media question about that.
So something was wrong on social media, Kendra?
Can you imagine?
Holy crap! Oh, I think there's. I think I've.
Oh no! Everything you read is by God truth.
No, there are. I know because I talked to Grand Junction. I know Elizabeth is PRCA, maybe not WPRA.
Grand Junction, sure
Grand
enough.
Junction's both.
Okay.
So we tried to spread them around to where it wasn't just all Mountain States. We tried to spread them where there was a little bit of that everywhere, and as we move into the future a little bit more, if it is a popular thing, maybe that expands a little bit. I don't know. It's certainly a step in a different direction that the PRCA hasn't ever taken before.
So we've dove into, which is what Kendra does. We've talked about the contestants side of this, which I think is good. And we've really flushed that out. But there's a couple things that I want to bring up. I'm assuming you guys are spending another $190,000 in prize money, probably to compensate for some of those entry fees you lost.
Absolutely.
Right? But that's a lot of money. And, you said, well, Tommy, Joe, you know about ticket sales. The thing that we run into with our current business model here is that the PRC and the WPRA are contestant-based organizations. So their primary interests lie 100% in what's good for the contestants, as they should. I think that's true.
Absolutely.
But however, the rest of us out here have to try to figure out how to make sure, you don't see posts from contestants. Very seldom do you see posts from competitors that say $2.5 million more in prize money last year. Wow, this is cool. And that's sad. There may be some. I may be leaving someone out. I'll get emails and stuff. But this sport is growing, and the truth is, the way this sport grows isn't by doing more slack. It's not by running more steer ropers. It's by selling tickets, entertaining the audience, so that sponsors want to be a part of it. Now, there's a lot of sponsors that the contestants are their key. I get that. That's true. Those endemic sponsors, the contestants are 100% why they're involved. But we're also looking for new sponsors out there that are looking for the fans. And, the Utah Days of 47 Rodeo, well, let me give you some numbers that I think are prevalent here. I researched my sources. Right now, there's about 25 out of 700 rodeos, or 750 rodeos, 25 that are limited enough to where there's no slack. 25 out of 700 rodeos. So I know it's a big deal, and I know all of the past memories of Cheyenne, but the Utah Days of 47 Rodeo is a good example. We've got way less parking than you have. I would kill for your one patch behind the buck and shoots, right? But we don't have that, and we're still continuing to try to provide opportunities for contestants. Now, not only do they have qualifiers, right, but just win. It's pretty simple. Just win. You win. The cream rises to the top. We can say, and here's the deal, Kendra. I understand Oat won, did all that, but I would venture to say Oat was going to win anyway, right?
I don't
Because
know.
he's the
He didn't
winner.
win a penny on his permit or his
Yeah, but
rookie year as
he's
a
a world
rookie.
champion, and he's not just a world champion because of slack.
Yeah, but
He's a
if he
world
doesn't
champion
win
because he's
Cheyenne
better.
that year, he goes back and works for Buck Buckles in the hayfields in Nebraska. Is the
And
fact of it. It
and
was
maybe
his
he
last
wins.
time.
Maybe he wins the next year. I'm just saying, cream. It's hard to not say that the cream doesn't rise to the top. The the fans in the stands. There may be some out there that want to see Billy that ropes locally. Get it? His family's there. Everybody's there. But as a whole, right? The non-endemic fans, most of the fans, they want to see the very best competitors in the performance. Right? It's not a little league game. Right? This is professional sports, right? And the fact that we have, and I know this is going to rile you up, Kendra, which is why I'm saying it. And Tom, you would probably step back, but there's 700 rodeos out there that you can go hang out on the lawn chair, barbecue your brisket, rope. Don't care if you win or lose, rope, have a good time, test your rope horse out that you use 3 times a year. But these big rodeos that are doing $1 million worth of prize money should have some say in how this goes without getting slapped in the face.
Okay, well, one thing, I do want to double back because I don't want to leave out the breakaway ropers and the barrel racers. What's their situation? How many get in?
So the breakaway and the barrel racers chose to go the same path as the rough stock riders, 72, 6 advance each day to the semifinals, 4 to the 4 from each of the semifinals into the finals. So they're going to be exactly like the rough stock rider. They're the bareback and saddlebrook riding.
Okay, both women's events.
And in the bull riding, those 100 bull riders they turned away, 75 of them weren't going to make 8 seconds.
Right.
I'll say it. I don't care. Right? They're not. And you don't want to go watch bull riding when there's no bull riders. There's no bull rides. Right? I mean, this is just the reality of those of us, Kendra, that are packaging this to get ticket buyers. We need the very best bull riders that the PRCA has. And by the way, they're way better than they've ever been. The bareback riders are way better than they've ever been. The saddle bronc riders have always been strong, but it's the best rough stock lineup, in my opinion, the PRCA has ever put forward at our rodeo, and I'm thankful for that. But people want to see 90-point rides. They don't want to see a guy eat the dust.
So Tommy, this is what I mean. We all know the ideal model for success in rodeo, right? I mean, we've seen it for years in Las Vegas.
What is that? What is it?
The National Finals Rodeo.
The very best?
The very best in the world competing. And people that go there don't necessarily know every tie down rope but they know when they walk in there, it is the best of the best. And even the PRCA's tried to duplicate that with their tour, right? They've kind of tried to isolate that because they know that's successful when you have the best of the best. I mean, that's if we look longer down the road and you're right. I want to go back to your point about who's in charge of making rodeo better. Well, the only entity left in the PRCA that has that power are the rodeo committees. No one else out there can improve rodeo except for the rodeo committees because they're the ones that bring it to the fan base. And you're right, if we're not allowed to do what we spend 365 days a year knowing our customer, knowing what they want, and being able to implement that, how do we ever grow this sport? I mean, I want to grow the sport to where when kids are successful in rodeo can actually make a living in rodeo and not have to worry about, man, if I don't make the finals, I'm done this year.
Or retire at 30 years old and have a career and not have to start shoeing horses or selling WW trailers.
Absolutely.
Tom, I feel like your fan base has evolved over the years. Don't you have a lot of tourists in this?
You know, that's interesting because everybody thinks, well, you got all rodeo fans at Cheyenne Frontier Days. 85% of our customer at Cheyenne Frontier Days that buys tickets has either never been to a rodeo or goes to one rodeo a year, which is Cheyenne Frontier Days.
That's a strong stat. That's so you. That's a
You could,
that's a
you,
great stat, but that I don't know about that. They might have
oh
been
yeah.
drunk when they filled out the survey.
Well, I can't help that. But I mean, you can look in our stands and see it. It's not Cowboys. It's not. It's people from Denver, Colorado, and Fort Collins. And
That's what we need.
yes,
New. Now, here's the deal, Kendra. The commit. Here's what needs to be said here. I think the committees 100% value the fact that the contestants and what they do in our arena is our product.
absolutely.
We value that. And if we didn't, we wouldn't be spending millions of dollars and increasing the prize money every year, basically taking what we reap by selling tickets and trying to put it back into the pockets of the contestants. If we didn't value the fact that rodeo is rodeo because of the Oats and the Stetsons and all of these wonderful people that compete and go up and down the road. And by the way, these 700 rodeos, they need everybody. They need everybody to make it work. And they don't need them going to Cheyenne. They need them coming to their rodeo, right? You know, what if you have a rodeo deer in Cheyenne and you're piddly flipping Pennsylvania and everybody's going to Cheyenne, right? There's a lot to this that meets the eye and a lot that doesn't meet the eye.
I think one thing is that one thing you might be missing is what a compliment it is for the Cowboys and the young Cowboys, you know, have a shot to be on the hallowed ground. I mean, the beach, is it the beaches or the beaches, Cheyenne? You know, I mean, it's like a lot of history
Depends
is
on what
happening
song
in that
you
arena.
listen to.
And it's a compliment to Cheyenne for a lot of people to want to, you know, to want to say they nodded their head at the dad, you know.
I
So
can't believe how
Kendra,
long.
let me ask you this question. So what is the cut? We've been turning people away because we only allow 200. What's the appropriate cut?
Well, it feels like the situation at the border is a very large factor right now. When you say that every calf roper costs the committee $350 just for stock charge, nobody knew that.
My
And,
time
and
to
it's
event
not like
cattle.
we have one contractor. I put that out to bids, and I got 2 guys that would bid on that many calves.
Okay, I have another. Okay, let me throw this one out. I saw a world champion barrel racer pointing out economic impact on Cheyenne. So I would love to ask you about the rodeo's economic impact. So her point was feed stores, tack shops, tire stores, restaurants, truck stops, mechanics, nail salons, farriers, you name it. They all wait for all of us to come to town and spend all this money. Is that a fact?
So again, I mean, I think people out there think that we just make these knee-jerk reactions. So for the past 2 years, we've been having Visit Cheyenne. They geofence downtown and they monitor the activity downtown Cheyenne the week of slack. They do not see any blip in the week of slack at all. And we talk to our feed stores, the Tractor Supply, the Murdochs. Do you guys see an impact that week? And they said, we really don't even know anybody's in town. It's
Oh, that can't be right.
well,
Someone's buying some eggs and bags of feed. They may not have
Not
registered,
even.
but it's not
but they're
creating any
spending money.
blip, Tommy Joe. It's no
No,
different than the week before.
it's not having a Kendra, a progressive impact on the overall economy, but it's not fair we don't want our viewers to think that it doesn't have some kind of impact. But the problem is, a handful of breakfasts and 25 bags of feed, Kendra, doesn't necessarily push the needle enough to say this is the right choice, right, in this whole deal. The economic impact, you know where the economic impact comes, Kendra? It comes from fans buying rental cars and hotel rooms. Like there's taxes on that. That just so everybody knows, the major economic impact comes from people buying motel rooms and renting cars. that's the biggest push to move the needle.
Well, and keep in mind the way we've been structured here, where like our tie down ropers come in on Tuesday. They come in, a lot of them come in the night before that morning. They get up and rope, and as soon as they're done, we're on them. You got to get out of here because we got the bulldoggers and the team ropers coming in, and they need this space. And so they don't have a chance to put their horse in a stall, go downtown and eat, or do any of that stuff because we got to have our park back for the next group of athletes coming in. So we haven't been too conducive to our community by having this many people and not allowing them to experience Cheyenne. They got to go.
Part of it, when we talk about the parking, when I was a kid, it was like there were trucks and even cars pulling 2-horse trailers.
Yep.
So now, I don't know what the average length of the living quarters.
It's like 165 feet. Like some of those that pull into my rodeo, I don't know how they go down the road. You got a toter, right? That's 1664 feet long, connected to another trailer. You need 4 square miles, Kendra, I swear to God, to just get them parallel parked. Like, it is incredible, the length of ththese rigs.
Well, even consider back in the day, Kendra, nobody had a crew cab truck. It was all single cab trucks. Just think about the sheer size of the pickups that are pulling them today versus back in that day.
And I'm trying to get all creative because I'm eyeing the pastures across the highway. I'm like, could they dry camp across there and somebody
on the military base?
Pardon me?
On the military base? I doubt the military would let them do that.
Didn't understand. Well,
it's not inline trailers and Cadillacs anymore.
Yeah, I noticed. Let's talk about another major change at the Daddy this year, and that is Shoot 9.
Yeah, it's incredible, and that's what we find out is people want. They don't want to be tied to a seat. They want to experience the rodeo. They want to be able to get up, move around. They want VIP areas, and so that's what we've been creating for the night shows and the rodeos, trying to get more people that really want to go to the rodeos a lot. That a lot of people don't want to be tied to a seat. So building these areas and Shoot 9 is going to be incredible. It's going to be there's boxes in there that are smaller than our big boxes that are over the rough stock that'll accommodate a smaller business that wants to come in there. As long as we keep getting our steel in and we get done, it's going to be an incredible asset to Cheyenne Frontier Days.
So you're not guaranteeing it's going to be done?
Well, the steel has been an issue, and now they backed us up to July 4th, which doesn't.
Is that in the same pen as the Coriones? Evidently, the steel's in the same pen as the Coriones.
They're coming with the Coriones. Yeah.
So there's still. It seems like rodeo people are, kind of the minority. If 85% are at their first rodeo, but will there still be the sweet little section of all the contestants' families?
Yeah, that stand isn't staying. It's staying the same.
Okay, because that's where you see people once a year. And
absolutely.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the experience of Cheyenne. The Indian Village, I guess, new in 2026.
Yeah.
The Year of the American Indian. What is this Morning Star Indian Village? Tell us about it.
So we had a donor from Jackson, Wyoming that came to us 3 years ago and went to, we've always had an Indian village that's always been wildly popular, and it's been here a long time. So these people came in and they saw our Indian village and they were just excited about the number of people and just kind of the Western heritage of Cheyenne Frontier Days. They'd never been down to Cheyenne Frontier Days before, and they loved how we get people experienced with all the things Western. And so they came to us and said, we want to build a new Indian village. So they made a donation to build a $10 million Indian village on Frontier Park. And it is unbelievable. It's got a sunken dance arbor that seats 750 people to watch the Native Americans dance. And there's vendor buildings and then separate stages for flute players, storytellers, bead makers. It was really an incredible gift that we never saw coming.
Air-conditioned teepees?
Air-conditioned teepees. But here's one thing I want to explain that I think Cheyenne Frontier Days, and I'm going to blow our own horn for a minute. When you step onto Frontier Park, I mean, we have incredible grandstands. They're getting older. The arena, everything around there. Not $1 of taxpayer money has gone into Frontier Park. When you think about every other major rodeo facility or even sports facility that you go to, they're built by the taxpayers. So everything built on Frontier Park has been built by the labor of the volunteers, along with our rodeo, which has been extremely successful. But I think that's a huge deal. I'm so proud that our community has done that and given that gift of economic development to the city, and the state, and the region. But I think that's a huge accomplishment.
So
The
that's why,
bad side about that is everything that's got to be fixed, everything that's got to be built, we have to take care of. We don't have a city, state, or county government that's maintaining our facilities.
so because you're not taking anything from tourism, no money from tourism, that allows them to pay all the money to get the Hall of Fame up there, which you grease the wheels for?
No,
Okay. Okay.
I'm all in favor of it, though. I think it's awesome.
I'm telling you right now, if they move the Hall of Fame up there, they will have more people go through the Hall of Fame during the Cheyenne Frontier Days than they do the entire year in Colorado Springs.
Absolutely.
So there you have it.
I mean,
Well,
our
I think we should address that, though. I mean, people are going to wonder. We're talking to Cheyenne. Is the Cheyenne Frontier Days related to the wooing of the PRCA and the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame?
No. I mean, I've helped leads with their development. I mean, they came to me and said, "Do you think the PRC would move?" And I said, "I don't know that. I mean, they've talked about it, and they just went off, and of course, they've asked me questions about the PRCA, and I've kind of helped them with just kind of their knowledge about rodeo and things like that. But the leads organization, they basically took and run with that thing, and it's incredible what the package they put together to the PRCA. I don't think anybody can match that.
Did you
But
warn them about the frustrations they could have in dealing with them?
well, I told them I had to talk to the legislators the other night, and I said, I'm kind of torn. This is like being in sixth grade and your principal moving in next door to you. But I think for the state of Wyoming, we've never had an organization that's so connected to the rest of the United States like the PRCA. This is a feather in our cap, and that's why I think it's part of why the PRCA moved here, is because rodeo is so special and important to the state of Wyoming. I think we're still the only state that every NFR contestant from Wyoming gets sponsored by the state legislature, has money set aside for those people that make the finals. I don't think any other state does a funded program for rodeo contestants like that. We have the national high school finals, we have the college national finals. We are the cowboy state, and this is just this is going to be important to the state of Wyoming for a long time to come. They're not going to get shoved behind in another state because there's so many other things. They're going to be the marquee of this state.
Now, is it true, real quick, Kendra, is it true that the taxpayers have to vote on this yet before it happens?
No, it's got to go through legislature, which it seems to be flying through legislature. So, no, it's not a taxpayer. It's actually the money coming from the legislature comes out of those tourism dollars that you were talking about.
Did I hear or see something about there will be more accommodation stalls or pens or something for the timed event horses this year? Is that right?
So that's the other thing. One of the things that really hurt me as far as a brand perspective is, we talked about, having contestants, having to get them off the park. I really feel like people think it's a pain in the ass to come to Cheyenne Frontier Days because it's in and out. You come back, you don't know when you come back. We wanted to improve the experience for contestants. And I liken it to one year we decided we had Florida Georgia Line playing here, and the ticket sales were going good, so we upped the cap. We usually are at 22,000. We said, we think we can take 25,000. Took 25,000. Florida Georgia Line put on an incredible concert. I never got so many complaints. You typically don't get complaints from concert goers. I got so many because there was too many people and the experience wasn't good. I mean, we get letters we got a couple from some barrel racers that said they're not coming back because it's too hectic getting in and out of there, trying to compete, keep their horses going. We want to make this a place that people are excited to come to, and we want to reestablish that bond between volunteers and cowboys. So we bought 180 new stalls, and they're the legitimate box stalls. We had panels, and we had horses getting hurt in those. Now we have legitimate box stalls. They're very nice. They're top of the line box stalls for these contestants that have these high dollar horses to put them in. We have plans to make a facility that will house the families a little bit so they can get in and out of inclement weather and have a place to maybe go shower if they need to, and we want to enclose that locker room in the for the rough stock riders so they don't have to change clothes out in the middle of the grandstands. So we are definitely, the whole volunteer force is tasked with how do we make this a better experience for contestants to come to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and
But
work
even when you give them locker rooms, you have to put in the ground rules that they can't change behind the chutes because they will anyway.
Well, if they choose to, I think some of the women in the stands actually go back there to watch them. So,
well, I'm sure they do.
I have a payoff math equation, and I saw someone's notes on this, and I'm just it's for the breakaway. And it very briefly said, okay, under the old format, they're like, correct me if I'm wrong. So I'd love to just throw this out there. Old format, 200 girls, $475,000 entry fees. That's 95,000, 67,000 added, paid out 162,000. New format, 78 girls. If the entry fees are the same at 475, that'd be $37,050 plus 96,000 added money would be 133,050. So it would actually pay 29,000 less than before. Does that sound right?
well, it certainly could, but think of all the checks that we're not paying out in those qualifying rounds. So the money's not split up so much. I think, to me, the key factor is, think about this: in 2025, of the money we paid out of the purse, 47% of that came from the contestants. So this year we're going to pay out maybe $150,000 less, but 18% of that comes from the contestants. That's our money that we're putting up for this thing, and it's not contestant funded. So I don't have those numbers in front of me, but yeah, it certainly will
But that
be.
that doesn't get brought up. I mean,
No,
but when Kendra, when you do these limited events, that's one of the drawbacks is you start looking at the payouts, right? And these cowboys, the losers fund the winners, and that's the format of the state, or of the state of the sport, is that the guys that don't win pay the bills of the guys that do. And that model should change. It's a tough pill, but that model should change.
Right. But a lot of the guys that are like my age would say, well, they liked it when there were no limits, but they felt like, hey, great, if the committees can, replace the money. And here's what's getting interesting. Part of this, from the contestants' point of view, depends what stage of your career you're in. Because a lot of times rookies come along, they don't want any limits. Well, then guys start getting married and having young families, and all of a sudden I'm talking about limits on how many rodeos you can count. Well, suddenly they don't want to be planes, trains, and automobiles, right? And so they'd like to go to fewer rodeos. I mean, that's happened with our rodeo counts. It's evolved, but a lot of it depends. I mean, a rookie might want to Don Gay it and have an airplane and go to 150. But profit margin, Tom Hirsig, what your point was just that you made was, you're talking about profit margin, and profit margin is what everybody should care about, right? So that we don't have Hall of Famers selling used cars.
I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense to send our stock contractors down the road with $120,000, $130,000. I mean, certainly they deserve it. I mean, the cattle cost that much. They're not ripping us off, but that's money that could be used in rodeo. I mean, for contestants. It's just, it just doesn't make sense to keep doing that.
Well, and you're never going to make, ever going to make everybody happy. Spectators, contestants, contract personnel. It's impossible to write a formula that pleases everybody. And even at times, you'll have the same two people, both of them roping, that have a completely different opinion because, like you said, Kendra, it depends on where they're at in their life, right? If for the guys that know they can beat everybody, this doesn't bother them, right? I mean, for the Ty Murrays, the people with the Ty Murray attitudes, do whatever you want. I'm going to go to Cheyenne and win. Right.
Well, interesting. I talked to Ty Murray this morning about some of this kind of stuff, and yesterday talked to Jake Barnes. Interesting. Jake, 7-time world champion, Hall of Famer. I never thought I'd hear it come out of his mouth, but he's like, now that I'm at this stage of life, he goes, I'm starting to think that maybe there should be 3 tiers of people. The guys rodeoing for a living. Don't you laugh at me. The guys rodeoing for a living. The circuit guys, and then he goes, I'd fit into the C League now because I'm just out here, because I love it. Oh, stop it, cornball. But anyway, but here's the deal. Okay, on that line, back when we were the young people and Jake and Clay were ruling the world, we were at the DNCFR, predecessor to the RNCFR, now the NFR Open. And Jake and Clay won that some kind of record number of times. And they said to me then, Kendra, we should not be allowed to be here. Now, if we're allowed to be here at the National Circuit Finals and it counts for the world standings, of course we're going to be here. But we should not be allowed because this should be for the circuit guys day in the sun. They should have this. So I'm saying, it's not, you want to bust my chops all the time. I will always be for the Cowboys, but I want profit margin. And so we're not on the wrong opposite teams on that, right? I mean,
well, there's definitely more money. There's more money in the pot when everybody throws money in the pot. There's no way to deny that. The question is that the right model, right? That's the model that's the problem when you said about, being 3 groups. That's been the discussion all along and has been for 3 years. Every rodeo is not created equally in the space that they have, in the money that they spend, in their audiences. So one set of rules for every rodeo, even their large rodeo category, is like, I don't know, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like 50,000 and above. Hold on. There's a whole nother level of large rodeo now. And we're so damn opposed to doing anything different than we did in 1982 that we handcuff ourselves over and over and over again.
Tommy, do you know what's the number? If you take the top 10 rodeos, what is that the percentage of the total purse in the PRCA? Do you remember what that number is? It's
a very large, and I think when you go to 12 or something, it's a really large percentage of the money, and that's good. But it's the small rodeos that are promoting our brand, which we try to help with Days of 47 Rodeo. You try to help with Cheyenne. We understand that it's the rodeos that sell 2,000 tickets and the whole family attends and everybody gets to rope at. There's no doubt that is the foundation that all of us big rodeos stand on, right? That's just the truth.
Right. So my point is, I don't think they should be treated, extra special, but I think the one thing that we're missing is how do we go from where we are now with, we got the Cowboy Channel came in, thank goodness they did, and they put rodeo on TV, and it's been good for everybody. How do we take that next step? How do we get to where we have maybe our top rodeos on Fox Sports or, CBS or something like that? And to me, the one way you do that is get some sort of consistency and contestants in your rodeos, of those top rodeos, because that's what is going to be marketable to a CBS or ESPN or something like that. They don't just want rodeos. So looking down the road, if we can start developing something, because who knows? I mean, the Cowboy Channel, I mean, we don't know how long that's going to be around. We're thankfully that, I don't know if you guys know the story about that, but when George Taylor was here, he got the top 10 or 12 rodeos together, and we developed the RFP and sent it out to all the TV networks and stuff. And Patrick Gotch was the one that came back, and he was going to write a check for no matter what anybody else did. But it's the first time that we ever were getting paid for TV. We've taken this step. How do we take that next step?
Yeah, but Patrick proved a model that nobody believed would work.
Right.
Okay, in fairness to him. And here's the other thing. I'll challenge you on this. It has been the opinion of all rodeo committees and even contestants, Kendra, that by God, if we just get on network TV, we're the NFL. Well, maybe we ought to rethink about what we are. We are the original sport, right, in rodeo. And now with content distribution, if you want to watch rodeo, if you want to watch anything, if I've been watching curling, I'm probably going to find some curling now because of the Olympics. But if you want to watch it, you can find it. So maybe instead of, because we've done this since the Winston Tour, if we just put this on Fox, if we just put it on CBS, we're all going to get rich. The Cowboys are going to get paid NFL starting quarterback contracts. That's all bunk.
Yep.
There's casual viewers that like it and watch it. But what we need to make a better effort at is trying to create fans in our sport. And it's not by necessarily, Tom, in my opinion, being on Fox. It's putting out good products. It's increasing our brands on site. It's entertaining our fans. And it's showing them they can find the Cowboy Channel now if they want to watch it. And that never happened before Patrick Gotch. Right.
Historically, when we were on those networks, we paid a fortune as a sport to be on.
You do. And that's changing a little bit now because the networks are in dire need, right? All networks have now is major sports and news. That's the truth. Everybody can go everywhere else and find their other content, and they do, right, with all the streaming platforms. So the whole model's changed. And frankly, none of us really know what 5 years from now looks like on the broadcast. So to make that our platform, if we just can get 10 rodeos on Fox, I think it's a great idea. But to spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get Fox to give you the time, and then you produce it, the numbers don't work, and they never will. And the advantage is not for us.
So I agree with you 100%. In my model, what this looks like is, let's just say, for example, you have 3 different series, right? So let's just say the Texas Swing is a series you can watch through the Texas rodeos, and then there's a finals. If you could break that into maybe 3 different segments so that people can follow something, because you can't just you're right, can't put Fort Worth, Texas on TV and have the winner and say, tune back in December and watch them on the NFR. It's got to be more calculated than just putting rodeos on TV. There's got to be a system, just like, the PGA Tour or any of those tours. There's got to be something that keeps building up.
Well, it's called tiering rodeo, but when you say that, you get flogged.
What's that?
I said it's called tiering rodeo, but when you say that, you get tar and feathered.
Yeah. I know. But the question is, how do we grow our sport?
Which, Kendra, you, me, Tom, the people on social media that are commenting negatively and positively, everybody's heart's in the right spot. Mm-hmm. But that's why we try to do this podcast, is to have people listen with an open mind and understand. I remember when I'll quit off the record, but I remember when I got on the school board because I was going to fix the schools. When you get on the school board and you actually understand what the schools are dealing with, everybody on there wants the best for the kids. Everybody in the PRCA office wants the best for the Cowboys. Kendra wants the best for the Cowboys. Tom and myself and all the rest want the best for everybody. There's different opinions and approaches for how we reach that. But the truth is, we all want the sport to grow, right? We all want everybody to succeed.
Yeah, and I don't want the bottom five going to the NFR with run-up credit card debt.
Yeah, me too.
It's getting closer. It's getting closer, Kendra. Closer than it's ever been to that being reality.
I mean, you look at, one of the guys that I thought was maybe should have been one of the biggest stars in rodeo was Clayton Cooper. You think about, I think, was it like maybe 2 years or 3 years in a row, he was 16th, 16th, and 17th. He did amazing things with a rope. I mean, that guy was phenomenal. But after that run, he was done. He couldn't go anymore. And I mean, I don't want to see that happen either. I mean, my story is when I finished sixth in the world in the steer rope, and we all know the steer rope is not a great paying event. When I pulled away from the national final steer open, I was in debt up to my eyeballs. And I went to 14 rodeos. I didn't go to 60. So, I mean, I want a future for this next generation of rodeo people. Because I'm going to tell you what, there's some talented kids out there, especially the ones that have ropes in their hands today. And they're going to take the rodeo world by storm shortly.
It's true, but we have to figure out a way. It's tricky, as you know, like with calf horses costing 200, 300 grand and trucks and trailers and everything else. It's like, holy moly. Yeah. I don't want it to be a trust fund sport either.
Yeah.
You want it to where people can win and make a go of it.
But you don't see people, you see people signing on the dotted line for $200,000 aluminum trailers instead of pulling it in line behind a Cadillac. The whole culture's changed, right? It's just different now. I mean, the trailers in a high school rodeo parking lot blow my mind. I'm like, thank God my boys didn't rodeo because I would be Dunsky. Well, anyway. All right. Well, final comments. We went about an hour, which that was good. Tom, thank you for attending. Thank you for joining us and talking about this. We covered a lot of different ground. I do want to hit a few highlights for the Frontier Days.
Okay.
They've got the Frontier Nights. Two last questions for me. Frontier Nights, their entertainment lineup, folks. Treaty Oak Revival, Alex Warren, Red Clay Strays, PRC Extreme Bulls. Quick follow-up on that. When the PBR did their gig in Fort Collins, did that affect your economic impact any?
No, it didn't. In fact, it gave us an opportunity. Stay Smith and his team put on an Extreme Bulls event, and we kind of got back to what our fan base was asking for. Was they wanted bull riding. Our rodeo, people that come to our rodeo, especially, I mean, that's more of a local event. They're used to fast-paced stuff, and we bucked, I don't know how many, 45 bulls in an hour and a half, and people were on their way home on a Monday, Tuesday night, and it was really the talk of the town. Ticket sales were a little bit lower than PBR because PBR does have a fan base, but it wasn't. It was better than what we thought it was going to be, and our sales are really, they're up this year, and you know what? It felt better about paying the PRCA contestants and helping them stay on the road.
Well, the PBR changes, they got to change a format, and they did this terribly to Cheyenne. In fairness to Cheyenne, now, whenever I came with the PBR, we brought just the tour, if you remember right. We did the event, and it was our regular event, but they threw everything but the kitchen sink at Cheyenne, and that's hard for the spectators to get a grip on. So after Extreme Bulls, Riley Green, wow. Blake Shelton, wow. Hardy with Cameron Whitcomb, I don't know that. But Zach Top and Jody Messina, Zach Top, he's freaking bad A. Do I get a VIP? Well, when is that? The 25th? Oh, it looks like I'll be doing a rodeo then. I would be there. I would be in your box watching him.
I'd love to have you. Yeah, we're excited about this year. Ticket sales look good, and I think with the Morningstar Indian Village, it's going to be a big year for us.
Final thoughts, Kendra?
I guess the one word, when I think of Cheyenne, the daddy of them all, the one word that I think about is tradition. And I know that, it's going to have a new look. It's going to have, some new feels. as a group, as a deciding body, I don't know how big of a committee and a board and different things that you have, but tradition and respecting the tradition of the daddy surely is a major thought in everything that goes on there. Is that right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we're a traditional rodeo, but what one person considers tradition might not be what tradition is. I mean, the tradition of Cheyenne Frontier Days is we put on an event for our community, economic impact for our community. That's why we started Cheyenne Frontier Days. That's the biggest thing that we do. The second thing that we do, which is a tradition, is we make sure that we expose people to the Western way of life, whether it be our old frontier towns, our Indian village, and of course the rodeo. That's another tradition. A tradition in our rodeo is we have a huge arena. We have a long score. It's a Cowboys arena. And we get to showcase that to people that don't get to see that all the time. And that's our job, is to build fans of the Western way of life. So to me, those are the traditions of Cheyenne Frontier Days that we got to stay on pace with. And that's what's going to make us successful in the future, all of us.
Well said.
I appreciate the visit for sure.
Well, thank you, Tom, for joining us. Thank you, Kendra, for your insights. And we appreciate it. Thank you, all of you out there that are listening to the podcast or watching us on YouTube. We appreciate all of you. Episode 100 coming up. Again, it's still the daddy. It's still the daddy. That's my opinion. All right. God bless all of you. We'll see you next time.